Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Autism More Story podcast. Today, I have the opportunity to chat with Austin Moore. He works with non-speakers and helps them to be able to communicate through pointing to letters on a letterboard. Today's episode is a little different because Austin is not a parent to a non-speaker. He is a communication partner and a practitioner. So today we're going to be talking all about his spelling journey, how he got started, and how working with the non-speakers has impacted his life. Austin, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you on the show. I'm going to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself, and we're going to start from there.
So my name is Austin Moore. I've been a spelling coach for 10 years now. I started working in the arena of autism back in 2001 when I was a senior in high school. I found a family looking for just therapists in their home-run ABA program down in their basement. About 5 or 6 of us high school and college kids that kind of just worked with our buddy. His name is Reese. His name will come up in my story. So his name is relevant to my life and to my path. So it is important to kind of bring his name up now. But so Reese taught me autism at the age of 18, and then he taught me spelling at the age of 19, or he was 19, I should say. I started working when he was 6. And then at the age of 19, he found his voice through spelling. So that's when I learned to be a spelling coach. That's a little bit about me. I went to UGA, born and raised in Georgia. So I'm a Southern boy at heart, and just kind of fell into this job. I think God gave me some talents for being a little patient with our friends, and I just kind of saw the path that was laid out for me and kind of went with it. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, it just feels like you were just meant to be on this path. You started out so young, and it's like it became like your passion, like what you shared.
Yeah, and I didn't think it was. Again, so a little bit more. When I was young and was able to follow Reese through school and do the ABA home-based therapy, is when I really saw how big and broad autism is. And that there was so much to learn. And so then years later, when he found his voice through spelling, I was like, I've got to learn how to do this. So once I learned with him, I was able to just naturally meet other families who were looking to spell. And I just kind of kept going with it, and it turned into a career. It's a beautiful thing because anybody can do it, especially if you're looking to just kind of ease into it. It's very possible to do that. So.
Yes, I'd love to talk about that.
Sure.
In our area, there's not many, so I feel like we're not the only ones.
Yeah.
So you shared that you, from working with, is it Reese? You said
Reese, yes.
Yes. So then, as your journey with him went on, he found his voice through spelling. So how did that happen for you? How did you find out about spelling?
So for 11 years, I worked with Reese through the school system. I was a shadow, did the ABA thing, did many different modalities that the family was going through. And then I took a chance with a new career shift. It was just because my wife at the time, just girlfriend, was graduating her college career, wanting to get into, the job arena. So I thought, I kind of need to go the same route. So I went into physician recruiting, and this was inside sales calls in a cubicle, 3.5 years. And I knew, I was like, this is not what I'm meant to do. At the same time, Lou, his mom, Reese's mom, was in touch with me going, we just started this thing. It's called spelling, or RPM at the time. You got to come see this. And so when we had been through so much, I was just kind of like, all right, I sure thing, Lou. And I almost didn't go, Nicole. I almost didn't go that day. And it was my wife who convinced me, you need to go and see Reese and just catch up. And that day kind of changed my life, where I saw him spell for the first time, and he was like my brother. So it was a personal kind of connection that I was a believer in the spelling right away. And so when I saw that, I thought, holy cow, I wish I was part of this. I was very jealous, like, oh man, how did they discover this without me?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And so this was in November of 2014, and then rolling into 15 that year, February, I kind of parted ways with that company, just knowing this is not what I was meant to do. It was sales calls inside all day. And his mom said, just come learn the spelling, see what you want to figure out. and here we are, from that day, learning or going in and learning with Reese. And his mom taught me, again, on the job. She taught me from the school of, like, the street school of hard knocks, how to spell. And I learned how to do it through Reese, and he expanded my skills with other friends that were also open at the time. So I kind of lucked in that I started with open communicators, but it also it humbled me a little bit in that I needed to learn quick how to work with our little friends and beginning spellers. So I went through a whirlwind of spelling all at the beginning, that kind of catapulted me into this weird stratosphere of what the open communication brings.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I feel like, starting out with open communicators, you're feeling like, oh, this is, easy, and then
Right.
you have to
Yeah.
be humble and be like, no.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was one of those things where I thought that everyone was going to be like my open people. And so, again, having to kind of get smacked up the head, both physically and metaphorically, with, this is not how everyone types or spells or can control their body. And that was good for me, because it was a rude awakening early on to say, don't think you know it all. And I've had that mentality ever since, is that I just keep learning from everyone I know, and I take pieces from everyone and make it my own. And that's what I encourage everyone that I teach, is just emulate the stuff that you see that works for your person, and then add your own flair to it, and you'll be your own spelling coach. You'll figure things out, what works for you, and what works for other people might not work for you, kind of thing. So trial and error, but you've got to get your hands dirty with our friends. Like, get in there, spell, make mistakes. It's okay. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that just reminded me of how some people will see spellers that are open, and they feel like you just start out just putting a board in front of them and let's go. And
yeah,
that's not how it is. And a lot of people don't get that. And I feel like that, that's important for people to understand,
yeah,
even parents that are like thinking of doing it. Sometimes if you go that route where you feel like, oh, you could just put a board in there, in front of them, you'll quickly find out you might be deceived. You might feel like, oh, this doesn't work for my child.
yeah. And that can be. I'm going through that right now with a friend that has worked her tail off to get to where she's at, and openly communicating now. And now I'm starting to bring in some coaching to the family, and a personal aide that's wanting to learn this, and trying to explain to them, like, what you see me do with her, you cannot try to do that right now. That's kind of like you're jumping into the deep end with no swimming instructions. You've got to dip your toe in. You've got to start from the beginning, and you have to follow the roadmap. And every family that I've ever worked with that has stuck to it and stuck to the roadmap of beginning at the 3-letter boards and the accuracy building to all these steps, these milestones that you have to check off, when that is followed, they get to open communication. And I've just kind of been fortunate to be in a position. And I think, quite frankly, I've worked hard to get to the point where I'm at, by following a process. I think I like the regimen of it, and seeing the patterns over and over again confirmed to me as a coach that, yeah, this works. And if you continue to build the muscle motor and the memory through those neurons, that you're just building these pathways of they've learned all these stems and loops by muscle memory. So all I'm doing is teaching them a new muscle memory that's purposeful. And it's amazing. It works every time. It's just, it appears different sometimes. It might be slow. It might be fast. They might have more physical issues than others, depending on the body type. But everyone can spell, in my experience. It just is not going to look the same. It might not come to open communication at the same speed. You can't compare anything to anything. So,
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I feel like, yeah, that's so important. The whole topic of spell to communicate, it's hard for people to grasp, because it's like, it has to do with the paradigm shift. It's a different way of thinking
yeah,
about, these kids. And so I feel like it's important to talk about it, you know, a lot. Like just share, say the same things over and over.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a good point.
yeah, I feel like it helps. So as a spell to communicate practitioner, I would love for you to share just with as briefly as you can for if you were going to explain the process of spelling to a parent or anybody that's never heard of it. Just what's happening there, what is the purpose of it all, and why can a child just use an iPad already if they
Mhm.
can spell? Yeah.
Sure. And so I would start anyone off that's never experienced spelling is that number one, you have to believe that what they present on the outer shell of autism that we see is not the true person. And again, I have to always base this on my experience. Every autistic I've met, they have shown me that there's something deeper inside, and that whatever things that presents either the flapping of the hands, the jumping, all that stuff we see on the outside is just a show. It's almost being born with a second personality that's just tagging along, and quite frankly, it steals the show all the time. So what we are doing is slowing, those motor processes that they've learned through the regulation, the self-regulation. We're slowing that process down by one, we're starting with educational lessons, which kind of organizes our thinking, and we're trying to spell together through purposeful pointing to letters, through the gross motor of just simple pointing to large letters at first, going down to more eventually typing, right, is the ultimate goal. And we're working on accuracy, and we're using the gross motor of pointing that most every person is able to do, to, again, slow the body down and to use concepts from a lesson to focus on known words. We're learning patterns of our spellers early on through these known words. And then eventually we backdoor conversations of their thoughts and emotions through these educational lessons. And so these lessons at first can seem regimented and almost therapy like, but they're the foundation that we need for spelling, to get to open conversation. And all it is when you do these lessons together is you're learning each other's dance steps, you're learning each other's movements, you're learning how each other moves and supports one another. And when that comes together, their confidence builds, their motor control is so much smoother, and they're able to confidently spell out their true thoughts and emotions. And so spelling as just a modality is just a tool. It's not a therapy to kind of see if it works for your student. It's kind of an investment for a lifestyle. And so that has been since I've kind of rebranded what I try to do when I go in, is I'm coaching a lifestyle, not a therapy to try, or I'm trying spelling. Now, well, you're working on communication as a lifestyle, and spelling is just another way, no different than speech or any device that they use. The spelling process is just another tool in the toolbox. So anybody can use it. If they want to learn, they can. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Thank you. So how would you explain the brain body disconnect and how it affects the non-speaker's ability to communicate more verbally?
Okay. So I used to use a visual in a presentation back in the day when I would try to explain to people that, if you've ever imagined, nowadays you can imagine an IT closet, right? Stacks of these modems and whatnot, cables going nicely. If you have a good IT person, the cables are nicely bound together and wired, and everything is in its place. And so I used to use this visual of like, this is the IT closet for our brains. It's running and all these gigs and everything's running. And then I show the slide of probably a high school, IT closet run by someone who doesn't know what they're doing. Wires are everywhere. Everything is connected, and somehow most things are working, but this should be connected at this place. And so what we're trying to do is go, okay, this needs to go here. We're trying to rewire the brain through the spelling. and that it gets more organized, and those neuronal pathways that we talk about, we're trying to build those pathways. We're trying to organize our cables in our IT closet with them through the spelling. And so, sorry, bring me back to the original question you were saying was about.
It affects them. So how does that brain-body disconnect affect their ability to communicate verbally?
Okay. And I also had a friend explain it to me that imagine he is a vending machine. And so he knows what merchandise he has. And when we go up to order something, he can give you all these options. And you may ask him a question, right? You're expecting this response, but every time B7, B7, B7. And no matter what you say, he's like, I've got all this stuff to tell you or to share with you. Every time it's B7, and he can't get out of B7. And that was one of those things that kind of made me realize, like, no matter what they try, the effort they try to put out, whether it's gestalt language coming out in a verbal loop from a movie, or it's the same thing over and over again, a conversation they've heard, or just a anxious, loop. That's how I've had it explained to me. So that's how I always visualize it, almost as like they are trying to say the words that I'm saying to you now, but it only comes out one way. And so I think that the rewiring of the IT closet is kind of the same thing, where it's coming out, but it's the virus within it's coming out as just gobbledygook. And so it's through the process of typing of, all right, we're getting rid of the virus through this almost old fashioned Morse code type communication of coding one letter at a time, compared to this impulsive, like jittery, whatever just comes out. Now, I hope that made sense. All my clients speak in these analogies. And so when they give them to me, I'm like, that's perfect for me to explain to other people.
Yes.
So I'm able to, from my experience, luckily, they've given me so much ammo to be like, oh, well, one friend explains it this way, and then another friend says this. And so that's what's been so helpful in my career, is being able to, I think, as just a layman coming in and saying, I don't know if this helps, but my friend shared this. And a lot of my clients or the parents are just saying, oh, okay, then it makes sense coming from one of them, and not me trying to break it down scientifically or through like a speech pathologist would, or because I don't have that background, but I have the experience of just trying new things with different people. So I just share the things that have worked, and I've also tried to share the things that don't work, because those are the honest moments too that a lot of people might not see, that there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes with spelling that even if with someone like me, you have your rough day. So it's a long process.
Yeah. I really liked that analogy. It's perfect. It explains it. I've heard other analogies, but that one also is new, and it just explains it in a way where you're like, wow, yeah, that really makes sense. Yeah.
Right. I try to remember those and like write them down and stuff. So luckily a lot of my transcripts are typed out, so I have those ready to reference. And so
yeah, that's really helpful for people that really don't understand, how does that, affect make them not be able to communicate verbally, not be able to speak. So that's really good for people to understand. And also to understand that what they're saying is not, like what you said before, what they're saying is not like an accurate representation of what they really want to say, because sometimes it just stuck up. So I like that, the B7.
Yeah. I also had a friend, she mentioned being like an Amazon delivery system, that it would, no matter what you order, you're going to get something that's not what you ordered. And so it's kind of along the same lines, but that B7, that vending machine is stuck with me. It's like, oh, okay. I know it's because it's a loop. No matter what, that's what's coming. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So what do you think is the biggest misconception about autistic non-speakers?
So the easy answer is that there's more to what we see. The number one thing, if you're going to be spelling with anyone, you got to presume competence. There's no point and trying to spell with them if you're not going to truly believe in them, because they'll feed off that. They'll know, and things probably won't go well. So I can imagine if someone's trying to become a spelling coach and they're not really in it for the right reasons, that they'll probably be filtered out naturally through our friends' abilities to kind of just sense that people's hearts aren't truly in it. Because that's another thing I keep getting from my friends is that the energy they feed off of guides them so much. And so I think when we find good coaches out here, we kind of all know, because we're all a little bit like that ourselves. So when we find coaches, when we connect online, we kind of see that, oh, I get this person. I kind of see they get it. And so, like, if people are in this for the wrong reasons, I think they'll be filtered out. And so I think the misconception that they don't understand the world around them is completely wrong. I've never, until I've been proven wrong on that, I'm going to keep believing that every person that has has autism or even many other disabilities are paying attention and just can't show us that they can communicate the way you and I are communicating. But there's another one out there that I keep getting. It's about age, and I'm really confused on there should be no age that a person should be able to start spelling. Even if it's, CAT, right, at 3 years old, they can handle it. And whether it's 4, 5, or 6, you don't have to bombard them with these gigantic lessons, which is part of spelling. But daily alphabet exposure, number exposure, simple education, like you would maybe even a homeschool program that you could just read one thing to your person a day and practice spelling one word a day. I don't think there's anyone too young to start spelling. So let me get that out there. If you are questioning it, is my person too young? I would say no. And that comes from Soma herself, the originator, the OG, who she says, I think her joke is, when somebody asks if when should they start spelling, she tells them yesterday. So I agree. Like, if just exposure, if you think they're too young, just read to them. Still presume competence. If you think it's too young for them to spell, that's fine, but just read to them, and read to them something different every day. Feed the brain. If you can't be a spelling coach, you can feed the brain. So just presume the competence, age appropriate, and feed the brain.
Yeah, I love that. For us, it was that way. Our son started at 4 spelling, and at that time I had found out that they were supposed to start at 7 or 8. I wasn't sure, but I was just like, why not? I feel like,
I mean, there's different opinions. So I'm not going to say to each their own. I'm just, in my personal experience, I've yet to see. I've worked with 3 and 4 year olds. Is not. It's not my forte, but I've worked with them, and I've had comments from parents. Wow, I've never seen them pay attention for longer than 5 minutes, or I can't believe they got two letters correct out of the 3, right? And it's like, yeah, it's the confidence. I think I come in just going, hey, I know you can't control your body. I'm here to help you try to control it through the slow poking so you can show how smart you are, right? So I would say that to a 6-year-old. As an adult walking in, I would say, you've probably been underestimated your whole life. I'm here to tell you I'm not going to do that. So you've got to show me that you understand by just helping me while I prompt you to spell. And then this is why we're doing this. And I talk to them like an adult. So I'm not in their face, raising the pitch of my voice or expecting them to only be able to understand a 3rd or 3-year-old level. That is something I used to do. It's like I was skeptical of a lot of stuff, including spelling. And so there's things that I'll never look back on, which is presuming competence. And so that's kind of the big thing for me is that the presuming competence piece has got to be your foundation. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, that's important. That's like one of the most important pieces. It gives you what you need to keep going, because if you don't presume they understand, or they're listening right now, or yeah, that's like the foundation of it. And if you don't have that, it's not going to work out.
And they know it. So
Yeah. So, as a spell to communication practitioner, as a communication partner and a regulation partner, what do you do that has worked for you that helps you to have the best outcome, you know, as a communication slash regulation partner?
okay, so I recently made a joke about this in one of my Instagram videos about getting pedicures, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it is something that I take seriously. Where I don't do that all the time. That was kind of amplified for Instagram, but I do that with my wife when the chance arises. What I actually will go through is if I wake up at 5 a.m. every single day, and I've been doing that for quite a while now, and it just works for me. I do personal time with my God first thing, clear my head with that, because if I don't, I feel like I have a little bit of FOMO for the day. And then once I do that, I actually use that time to veg out on my pop culture. So I'll watch a show, clear my head that way. I like to keep up with my like Netflix shows. I'm a pop culture nerd. So anything like that, I'll watch after I have my quiet time. I'll do what I consider my veg out time. And then that's when my kids are starting to wake up. So then I start going through my day in my head. Okay, who do I have on my calendar? Making sure that I have a lesson idea either in my mind or queued up in my queue of articles that are ready to go. Or I will make sure to touch base with the parent in case they have a question regarding the upcoming schedule for that person. You got school coming up. Is there anything you're nervous about or you're excited about, that kind of stuff? And then from there, we'll kind of go through my day that way and make sure that I got everything kind of planned. And as I'm driving to each client, I try to take care of the in between, the stuff, my life, my other clients, all that stuff, try to clear it out before I walk in the door. And then you get the pleasantries of the greeting. This is getting set up, and you kind of touch base with the parent or whoever's with that person and say, how we been? You try to get the best mindset of where your person might be based on that information, which is very important. And then we might get something from, say, a caregiver, like, hey, they had a rough time at the YMCA last week. Maybe we could talk about what set them off that way, kind of thing. And so we just kind of approach it that way, where I go down, sit down with my client, and right before I spell, I just try to take this deep breath. All right, here we go. Clear my mind the best I can and just try to be an open canvas for them and go. And then I trust from the work that we've done together, again, starting from the beginning with every single client, the work that we've done to recognize those spelling patterns. I have to trust that first letter they go to, when most of them are typing, that first area they go to, the first letter they press it's confidently them. And so once you build that through the practice, it's the flow of the conversation just starts to go, and it feels great. And when it's forced and it's all over the place, it feels rough. And so there's a difference. And as a coach, you'll start to tell that difference. One, the more you do it, and two, you feel this little energy flow going. I call it the maestro effect. When your person, no matter which board they're on, if they're boom, 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 and they're going like this, and their eyes are tracking, the maestro effect, when that hits, it feels good. And it as a coach, you're like, you are cruising. And then if the body's off and the regulation needs to be brought down, you're like, oh, okay, my person's off. Let's go. Let's scale back. And scaling back is such a big thing. That's a whole nother topic. But you, as a coach, you got to support the best you can. So you can't feel like ever going backwards is like a regression. It's just a body day. Like you need to, no different than if you were lifting weights really heavy and you're like, oh, I need to take it easy the next day. You're kind of like letting the weights off a little bit of like, all right, let's get a little regulated, that kind of stuff. So anyways, that was a lot that I just went through. So I hope that kind of followed a process there.
Yes, it did. I just have a quick question. I know you said the scaling back is a whole another topic.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too into it, but
Yeah.
I'm curious, to know, what does that look like? Like briefly,
Okay.
does that mean you're leaving the laminate to go to a stencil 26 letter, or you're going back to the 3 letter boards for that
Yeah.
day?
Luckily, I just had this happen, so it's fresh on the mind. So a friend of mine just reminded me of this because he is a full typer having a really rough body day. And to the point where he was typing nonsense, just consonants over and over again. And I'm like, oh, this is not you. What's going on? And I had to go back almost not all the way to our stencils here, but I had to go to the 26 stencil, like you said, go down to the 26 stencil just so he could kind of get a even slower touch going, because he was just all over the place with his eyes and impulsive and just not himself. And so that's what regression for him looked like. If he was on the stencil already, it would be down to the 3 letter boards. And if the 3 letter boards are just the body completely is just all over the place, is when I would just feed the brain. I would just, all right, hey, go sit down. I'm going to read you some chapters, and we're going to try to just reboot in 10 minutes if we can. And if not, it's just not going to happen. We'll try again tomorrow. So it's all about I guess the last thing you can regress down to is just, all right, I'm going to read to you while you sit over there and just try to get to the regulation you need, and feed the brain.
Yeah. And okay, another question I have is, what does that look like then? For how long have you seen, like, what's the longest that you may have had to, I don't know how to say it, go back and build back?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the examples I gave you, like my buddy, I see him tomorrow, so I expect to just go back to normal typing. Same with the person that was on the stencil. I would go back to the stencil first thing the next time I saw them, expecting them to go right, almost like riding a bike, going back to that peak of where you're at. And then if they're still showing me, of course, I would immediately go back. But from my experience, they typically, it's like, bad day. I can't handle the all that right now, but I can handle something smaller. And then the next day it's like, oh, I'm good. Whatever, I got that out of my system. Let's get back to normal. The Jekyll and Hyde scenario is like, the body is just not cooperating. That person is not winning the fight over the body. The brain and body disconnect is just way too distant right now.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm curious. I just signed up to become a practitioner. So I'm also, and I feel like other practitioners might be watching this, just to hear. I've never heard of that, that regression to spelling. So that's new to me. And that was really very good insight.
Okay, cool.
Yes. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to the channel so you can get notified whenever I post new content. Until next time. Hi. Thank you so much for being here. If you're enjoying this video, please consider liking this video or maybe commenting. Let us know what you think about what's being talked about here today. Interacting with this video would really help it to be pushed to more people that could benefit from this kind of content. I really appreciate your support. So I wanted to talk about why a speller might struggle to spell with their parent or their mom or dad, but spell openly with their practitioner. Like, why is that?
Okay. So I'll start that with one of my guys recently used, again, another analogy, but he told me, because his mom had almost the exact same question. And he used the analogy that, fortunately for me, since I do have my own life and I do this professionally, I don't necessarily ever come in with a bias. Or he used the phrase puppy dog enthusiasm, of kind of just like, hey, what's up, buddy? Let's chat. Whereas mom might sit down going, oh my goodness, what's he about to say? He's going to talk about how I did this, or he wanted to do that, or we did this wrong, or, and so you're coming to the bat with basically, like, if you saw a pitcher coming up and he's shaking and he's got the ball, you're like, you wouldn't want to go up to bat either. It's like, that's kind of what they're bringing to the mound, is a shaky hand, and the batter, their student is like, no way, Jose.
Yeah.
Whereas I come in and again, I can be kind of, I'm kind of, I joke that I'm a redneck hippie from Georgia, because I just kind of fell into this, as kind of like this everyday dude fell into autism. So I think having a little bit of that mentality, but I consider myself pretty intelligent. So I think believing in them, one, having that presuming competence no matter what, and then having this, hey, whatever you tell me, it's not leaving this conversation unless you want it to, or whatever you tell me, like it's okay. Like I trust that what you're saying is your words. And so when they, again, just the building of the whole spelling together from scratch, from the ground up, they had built the confidence in themselves and trust in me that I'm going to almost accept their words. Again, using that pitching analogy, I'm the catcher catching their words as softly as possible, from sometimes a chaotic body. And it's one of those things where I just try to do that with the most care as I can. And I think that's a little bit to my benefit. Don't get me wrong. I have bad days where I am very distracted by, personal things. I'm human. And so they pick up on it and they'll let me know, where I've had so many times where I might literally be dozed off or dazed off because they took a pause for their body. And I'm just and then I think about something else that's personal, and they're showing me with initiation. They're like, hey, come on, swat at me. Like, let's spell. And I'm like, oh, sorry. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, I got to be present. Sorry. And they call me out. And if you're not graceful accept that and acknowledge it too, because honesty with them is very important. So I'll tell them, hey, sorry, I was out in the zone. I don't know. Sorry, I'm right here. Here we go. Let's get back to it. Honesty is so important too. I should say that with any speller, be honest with them and just tell them, I know you're having a trouble with your body. I'm here to try to help with the spelling, purposeful pointing, for communication in the long run. So.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I had struggled a lot with, my son is not open or near that yet, but he didn't want to spell with me. He felt more comfortable spelling with his practitioner. And I didn't know, I had never heard of anybody talking about that. So I thought it was like just me. And what's wrong with me? Why doesn't he want to spell with me? But things made sense after I found out about that, because I wasn't really presuming competence to start with. And I didn't know that, but that was humbling, because
that's great to admit it. It's good.
Yes. Yeah, I was. So I had taken him out of school and tried to homeschool him. And I thought I was super mom. I got this. I went and bought these puzzles that have the ABCs on them, like the letters.
Yeah.
Where you can match it to the word. And it wasn't like big words. It was like these 3-letter words. So like bat, son. And I'm thinking, we got this. So I thought I did it. I was like having him match it up and then spell the word. And that was last year. So he was 6 or 5.
You know what I would say to you though? I would say you did the best you could with what you had with you. And he knew that. Yeah. He might've been rolling his eyes a little bit, but he was like, she's trying.
Yeah.
And again, this is from what they've told me of the theme of, you guys had tried what the best you could with the knowledge you had is basically the theme I get from a lot of my spellers of don't feel guilty. You got to just move forward with what the spelling is going to drive the future. Right. So I've learned from them that they never dwell on the past unless it's something that is just something unavoidable that they have to talk about. They almost always just say, let's not talk about that. Let's move on from now. And let's be positive. The unconditional love is so true. They just view things differently, even if their body shows something kind of violent or just, the self-injurious kind of stuff. Like, their hearts are just in a different spot than most of ours, from them being in such a internal environment all the time. And so it's just such a powerful thing to be able to see their words come out through communication, slow, purposeful communication, and not some of the chaos that their body can show sometimes, or just the repetitive nonsense or the non-conversational things that are just all the time just going. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of parents that, they've been able to apologize to their kids after finding out, wow, we were not presuming competence, and their kids are always so
Yeah.
forgiving. And
Yes. And so that is one thing that they've given to me is through this whole process, they've made me a better human. They made me a better person. They've made me more graceful, more sympathetic, more empathetic, more fill in the blank, more curious about the world, more belief in my spirituality, because I personally believe there's something completely more going on out there that their brains are doing something that we can't imagine. And I think the time is about to come when we'll figure it out. The technology and the research is coming, so I'm excited for that.
yeah,
But I'm also excited to know that like this is a thing, and people are starting to catch on, and it feels good to be kind of part of the wave. I understand the negativity and the doubt, because I was there at one point, and when I first saw it, I think I had a personal connection that made me an instant believer. But I knew my person before spelling, and when he spelled, I was it changed my life. It changed the way I thought completely about everything. And then the deeper I got into spelling, it completely changed my life again. So yeah, the positivity they've kind of shown me, and just the kind words over the years, I think have made me a better person. Made me not want to, or I should say, maybe want to be more grateful for every opportunity, and just be thankful for the path that just put your head down, do your work, and things will kind of fall into place the way they should. So
yeah. And I think it brings us to a topic that I don't want to get into it, but the naysayers, how they deal with the naysayers. That's just, well, I've heard that they are very graceful with them. And sometimes some of them, aren't as, but some of them are just like, people don't understand. It's okay. Let's teach them.
yeah. I have a feeling like I'm sure I'll get more flack as we go. But I think all I can do is offer anybody who doesn't believe it. The best I can do is offer them to come shadow with me for a day. And I put that challenge out there to anyone. I'm sure somebody will take me up on it one day, but a person that maybe doesn't believe in it, or just thinks that somehow all of these worldwide stories just happen to be similar. That's the thing that gets me every time, is like, okay, you say it's made up or whatever people want to say, but how we all came up with the same story and same experience around the same time it's silly. So again, I think once the research catches up to the people that have to have this data, for their precious data, instead of looking at the anecdotal data that there is, my clients are the data, and my clients' stories are the results of what spelling is. And so I challenge anyone who just is curious or doesn't believe in it, just come follow me for a day. You gotta see it in person. You can't just sit from your armchair and say that it's not real. You got to be ingrained, and you got to know what's going on, and you'll understand. Something big's coming, and we're kind of on the forefront of something cool. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I'm just excited. It feels like something huge is happening. These people that have been silenced for a long time are finally able to communicate. I don't know how anybody would try to debunk that. Like, just try to understand it first before you just go and
Yes. And let me add the caveat, like, I understand why some people have had some bad experiences. So that's one reason why I've kind of started up my Instagram and TikTok, is because there can be bad practitioners, but they might not be trying to present bad practices, but if you're not ready and people see it, you're going to add to the deny, or you're going to add to the skeptics. And so when I hear these stories about people having bad experiences, I'm like, oh, can I just have 30 minutes of your time? It's like, let me just show you another side. Because I think the person that maybe was trying to tell you that, all the good things, they scared you, and they weren't meaning to, but they did. And I don't want you to have this bad taste in your mouth, because I get it. Like, I understand when have this belief system, especially the materialism. You got to have the data. And the ABA world, oh my goodness, the data. And like, I could imagine the burnout. And that I used to do it in the basement with my buddy Reese. I understand the burnout because it is drone like. Now, that's why I love spelling, is because none of my sessions are ever the same. And it's all about the love and moving on, not about these drills of percentages and getting these forced, loopy, rote responses to things because we want them to speak. I think whatever works for that person to communicate should be the answer. And eventually the technology is going to catch up to where my job is probably obsolete, which I would love, because that would take a lot of pressure off me. But until that day comes, I'm going to keep chugging along with all these clients, showing me a better way of living, and also opening up so many opportunities for themselves.
Yeah, that's true. You said something that just made me think. ABA kind of feeds into them having loops.
Yes.
I see that in my son, where he would say, Kyler, like, do this or clap, and then we'll give him something or something.
Sit down, spin around. Yeah, I remember touch your nose. Yeah. I remember. Yeah.
After a while, if he wanted something, he would do all the things, or he would kind of
he was trying. He was going through his arsenal. Yeah, that's the B7. So he kept. You were asking him something. He was like, B7. What do you want? Which one B7 do you want?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I'd never thought of that. ABA kind of does feed into the
and so that's the thing. I always warn people when they first see the 3-letter board, that many chunks of spelling. We're doing one-word answers. Like, this feels a little bit ABA-ish, like sitting in the chair, sitting still, this and that. But that's needed. And so I also, like, you'll hear me in my videos, I kind of contradict myself, where I'm a big believer you got to come and sit in the chair, because that's important for life. That's a skill we have to build for life. Mm-hmm. But when you're 6, and even an adult, which a lot of my adults do this, if they need to get up and move around in between typing, I'm totally cool with that. It's the up and down that is too distracting, that I'm like, all right, we got to work on your body first before we can even approach spelling. So then there's a lot of body work that goes into it, but there's also this time where if you can spell a sentence or even a word and then have to move around after that and come back to it, we're gonna go at your pace. And then I always try to make it a goal of, all right, now you're doing one word at a time. I have a good progress video on my Instagram of my friend Mia. I know they wouldn't mind me sharing, because her progress when we first started was one word. She'd look at me and she'd read the word, but she'd look at me, type, say the word, and type. And so now she's going 4 or 5 words without even saying anything. She's almost shut down the voice because she can do this faster. And that's a cool thing that I've noticed as a coach, where, of course, I want to encourage her to use her voice, but if her voice is just going to say something that's incorrect, so now she's reading what she's typing, which is so cool. And sometimes she's finishing her word before she finishes typing it. It's pretty cool. So yeah, there's so many things that show me how the spelling can it navigates in so many different ways and presents so many opportunities for our friends. So
that's amazing. Yeah. So here's a question that I'm very excited about, because I'm always curious to hear what the spellers, say. What are some things that the non-speakers you work with have shared with you that have left you mind blown?
Okay, that's a very good one. That's hard to choose exactly. I do get a lot of themes. So the themes of you've probably heard a lot of them. the locked kind of inside. I've been locked inside this body for a while. Those themes are kind of, they tend to come out first, and I've kind of gone through a lot of those. So some of those things early on blow your mind when you think about how much knowledge they've had and things like that. I get a lot of the previous knowledge things where they expose again their what they learned in, say, third or fourth grade, and from one of their teachers. It's just so crazy to, like, how did you know that? And they explain that they learned it in elementary school by so and so, and you just kind of are in awe because as an adult they're just now finally getting that stuff out.
Yeah.
And so it's fascinating that, of course, they remember it because they have like this steel trap memory, but also the fact that they're able to finally express that. So in the moment, it's really cool. But then, of course, I have the B7 story, that the vending machine kind of thing was like, whoa, because it really put, like you said, it put a visual in my mind that I was like, dang, that really made it make sense.
Yeah.
And so when they give me those things, those are the ones that, the analogies that help me as, again, an everyday dude, say, you just hit a light bulb moment for me. Thank you. Now I can share that with everyone else that I meet. Those are the moments, what you call mind blowing. But I have one in particular that a guy said recently that I had waiting to read to you because I knew you might ask this, was his sister was going on a plane ride, or plane taking off to Seattle. And so my friend was typing a message to his sister, who said to remember the Pacific Ocean has a distinct smell from the Atlantic or the Gulf. Try and remember it. And I was thinking, holy cow, he's got a Rolodex of what certain bodies of water smell like. And then I confirmed with Mom, has he been to the Gulf of America, Pacific, and Atlantic? And sure enough, she's like, yeah, he's been all three. And so, like, I get chills talking about it now. So then when he said that and she confirmed it, I was like, holy guacamole, like, this guy, and this is a younger speller. So, like, the fact that he's able to express this as a teenager, and he's already got this powerful memory bank and this thoughtful process of, hey, see if you can tell the difference between this and that in such a specific way. It's so cool, right? And so I can get a bunch of themes that are really cool to think about, or I get sentences like that where I have to stop and, like, what? I have to do it. Yeah. But it's, again, why I do what I do, and why I honestly think I'm able to stay really positive is moments like that where I'm like, holy cow. And like, I get almost like a little bit of adrenaline talking about it.
Yeah.
Passion comes out because I'm like, look what he said. And what what does this mean? Yeah. It's just powerful stuff. And it's the positivity, I think, that keep me going in this industry with some of the really bad days that you as parents can go through. Right. I do this full time, but you guys live it 24/7. So I always try to stay humble there too. Like, you guys deal with the nonstop, whereas I come in for an hour or whatever it is a week to try to help you guys out, help your person out. A lot of respect and credit should go to your parents because y'all go through so much daily. And I keep reading studies about the same amount of stress on your brain as a PTSD, like someone been to war. I believe it. I've seen some scenes recently too of just friends that are not typically out of sync, just lose control, and knowing that their body's doing their own thing. It's one of those things where I'm really glad that spelling has an avenue for some of them to be able to just express what's going on. It's interesting when I get specific questions about, do you think they'll outgrow this? I hope so, because I've seen guys grow out of it. Mm-hmm. And there's also one friend in particular who I feel like something got worse. It's one of those things where every path has to be kind of, you got to go with your gut. You got to go with what's telling you is right. And when a lot of my families are on the fence about should I do spelling, and I'm able to convince them to take this path, it's such a beautiful thing, because all I try to do is just introduce the ideas of, number one, the presuming competence, and two, that they're really in there. And when the parents shift their mindset and start talking to their person in a different tone, they're age appropriate, and still have the playful mom and dad, like, hey, princess, little thing, like, that's fine. You're the parent. I'm going to call my kids, their nicknames till they're 50. Right. So still be playful with them, but presume the competence, and never turn back from that. Because if you presume the competence and dive deeper into that, to read to them at an age appropriate level and just have the conversation to them and not about them, they will start showing you little signs of like, hey, I noticed this, and this was kind of cool. Those are the comments I get from parents. I'm like, I bet you it's because you're talking to them age appropriate, and that they're listening, and you're not talking about them in front of them. You're talking to them. And that mindset is really just, it's, once you do it, there's no turning back in such a beautiful way.
Yeah. Yeah. I always like to talk about that because, like I said, parents need to hear it over and over so they can grasp it. We've been told to think a certain way for so long, but yeah, that mindset shift really is important, because that's where you change everything that you thought you knew. You humble yourself. You may have been wrong. It's at a certain point, and you start to see that what you're doing is actually helping your child to feel seen and feel understood and feel like, wow, people know I'm in here. Just presenting competence, presuming competence is so huge. And yeah, I always like to talk about that mindset shift, because parents, I have a lot of people that are wanting to, start spelling, that message me, and they're like, my son doesn't know how to spell. Or
right. I get that a lot too. And I try to just, again, that soft landing I'll talk about. I just say, I understand what you mean. Let me try to tell you why I think they are listening and why they can spell, even if it's just, again, using a 3-letter word, DOG. I guarantee you they can read and spell that. But let me show you why I think that through just a simple little spelling thing together. Again, I'll bring up my little stencils, right, and just get them going. But yeah, I would always just tell anyone who thinks that their person can't spell, that's the mindset. It's a mindset thing where you just have to shift and say, I think you can spell, you just can't show us. I don't expect you to spell, universe at age 3, but I think that you can spell sun, SUN, together, right? Let's do that one letter at a time, and then you build from there.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. So what advice would you give to new practitioners or parents that are starting their journey with spelling, and they're kind of doubting themselves because they're not, that beginning? I'm going through that as a parent, and I'm just faking it till I make it.
Good. Hey, I thought the same thing, and it's real. You fake it till you make it. That mentality is really just practice until it gets right. If you're being honest with yourself, and you wouldn't be where you're at with your son if you didn't kind of know where you're going. So like, I think the practice you're doing, because I see your little videos, you get the mud flaps and everything. That's you're doing everything you need to do. And if the progress isn't as smooth as you see other people online, that's where it can get difficult, as you can't compare. You can only go by your person's progress. And so my advice to anyone who is thinking about doing the practitioner, or just being a coach, any parent, my advice is yes, do it. Like, don't think about it, just do it, and do it at your own pace. Whichever way, all the certifications out there are great. Don't worry about which process is going to be perfect. you might do, RPM or S2C and find that the other one is even better than that one. It doesn't matter. It's about getting to your person's communication, and all those programs out there that can do certification are great, but practice is going to be what you need. And then you need a practitioner to kind of walk you along. So those groups out there are so important. But you can make progress on your own if you practice every day. You don't have to have someone holding your hand every single session, right? You just got to get out there, read to them, stick to the lessons early, and follow the process. That's where your practitioner is going to come in hand, is when you're recording yourself, asking them to watch it and get feedback. But when you keep working over and over again, you're going to accidentally fall into a good pattern of just learning your speller. And all of a sudden, they're catching the eye when they used to miss it all the time. And you're like, hey, I don't know how, somehow we got into this really good motion where he's hitting the eye every time. And it's because you're practicing and you're coaching the eyes, and it's all the work that you put in behind the scenes that, quite frankly, my Instagram stuff, I try to put out there. I put the fluff, the good stuff, but I also try to put the honest stuff of me messing up as a coach, or me really trying to help my person regulate. That's the stuff that people need to see, is that it's not an easy process. It's pretty hard, but anybody can do it. You just got to work your tail off at it. And when you get good at it, it can be kind of transferred to any person from there on. And so if I can say, again, to go back to the very beginning of this, if I can make a plea to anybody out there professionally looking to do this, not just parents, please do it, because there's such a need. I mean, it's never going to stop growing. And I see that as a great thing. If we have such a need out there, that means that the word's getting out and more people are being successful at this, and it's going to help our movement. And so, yeah, that's what the advice is I would give is start now, mess up. You're going to mess up. It's okay to mess up. This is not a test. No one's ever going to come in and test you. And if your practitioners like testing you, it's not a very good practitioner. They're supposed to just be coaching you along, and that's making you the best coach for your person. This is a lifestyle to live and not a therapy to try. That's the biggest takeaway. Spelling is an amazing pathway for communication. I have seen it work for everyone who goes through the process. That doesn't mean I've seen every family who's tried spelling get to that. So there's people that fall off the path, right? And they just give up. It's fine. It's not for the lifestyle is not for everyone. But if you follow the lifestyle and the pattern of how to get to open communication, it can be done.
Yeah, I like that. It's a lifestyle, not just a therapy to try. So we're down to the last question that I like to ask. What is something that your journey as a practitioner or the non-speakers that you work with have taught you about life?
Okay, so I touched on it briefly earlier, but the biggest thing that they have taught me is how to love unconditionally, and to have grace with everyone, even with certain family members that I don't get along with. Right? It's having grace of saying, I don't know what's going on in that brain of theirs, so maybe I should just hold off because I've had some bad days too. Kind of thing where I find myself thinking that way, and I'm like, that's my clients talking through me, or talking to me, I guess, through their words. So to me, that's a spiritual thing, like something my God's talking to me through their words and making me a better person. And it's because I'm thinking about them, right? So like, it has to be them working in me. And it's so cool to feel that, and to be able to talk to people about autism and use their words from their typing that's from them, that just like people are like, oh, that's so nice. I'm like, it's their words. I'm able to get it out to people, but it's them that make like my words look good. It's their words. Right. So it's one of those things where I always have to be humble in what I'm experiencing, because I'm very blessed to be in this position to be able to help them. And it's my job now to pass this information on to as many people as I can. because I won't be here forever. I don't know how long I'll be a coach, and to be able to get into positions where I'm openly communicating with people, and then, not to have someone tagging along with me. It's like it's a ride that I'm trying to pull people with me. Like, this is a group effort. You got to learn with me.
Yeah.
Because when I'm gone, you can't have your person sitting on an island waiting on the next communication partner. You need to be there to pick up the pieces. And the best time to learn is right now. So it's something I'm really trying to, again, softly push with each family that I work with, but they have to be ready to get going. And once they are, I'm like, let's do it. Let's rock and roll. I have a plan for everybody. It's just when the family's ready to do it, I kind of take it and go with it. So yeah, to get back to the original question though, the spirituality of everything has been some of the biggest things that they've shown me, is just how to be a better person through their words, right? Through their grace from around the people that are around them and the world around them. They're just so graceful with everything and love everything. They just are so wise with their words.
Yeah, that is so true. Everybody that talks about it, they're here to teach us to be better people. Yeah, we're so blessed to have them, and we just need to really just learn from them and just let them lead and
trust.
Yeah, and trust them. Yes. Thank you so much for being willing to, come to the podcast and share your story, your journey with how you working with non-speakers and all your knowledge. And just, I'm so thankful for what you share, even online. It's amazing. You're helping so many, parents. Just seeing you working with the non-speakers, we take a lot from that, and we're applying it, and it's just amazing.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to the channel so you can get notified whenever I post new content. Until next time.